Hi guys, Jack here. Bike maintenance is something that we often overlook and probably don't do as regularly as we should. But there's never a better time to do it than when it's wet and raining outside and the trails are full of mud. Today, we're going to be running through a couple of little things that we can do at home to keep our bikes running smoother and better for longer. Keeping your chain lubricated will be one of the things you will want to do most often on your bike. How often will depend on the type of lubricant you're using and the conditions that you ride in. But safe to say you're going to want to do it at least every few rides. If it's been a while since the last time you cleaned your chain and it's looking a little bit gunky, it's probably not a bad idea to give it a bit of a scrub with some degreaser and a firm bristled brush. Allow the chain to dry before you apply any lubricant, and make sure you cover every roller on the chain when you do apply it. If you do happen to have a chain checker, it's not a bad idea to check and see how much your chain has stretched pretty regularly too. If you don't happen to have one, then your local bike shop should be able to check this for you when you take it in for a service. Next, let's talk about your brakes. Brake pads will wear down over time, and you want to be checking on them regularly to make sure that they haven't worn all the way down to the backing plate. If you wear all the way to the backing plate, you'll end up rubbing metal on your discs, which will wear those down a lot quicker than they normally will. And then you may end up needing to replace your rotors as well as your brake pads. To check and see how far your pad has worn, have a look down from above. You should be able to see the pad in between the backing plate and the rotor. If you can see that it's worn down very, very close to that backing plate, it probably means it's time for some new pads. If you don't see any pad left there at all, it's definitely time for some new pads. Suspension is another thing that you'll want to check on regularly, as these are often the most expensive components of a bike. Some really basic stuff that we can do to help keep it running smoother is to wipe off any dust or debris that's gathered around the seals or on the stanchions or around the seals of the rear shock, and applying a little bit of fork juice is also very handy, although you want to make sure you don't overspray it onto your discs. Something else that's good to get into the practice of doing is doing a bolt check. As you ride, different bolts around the bike can tend to work themselves loose, which at best can lead to extra wear on those components of the bike, and at worst, lead to serious injury if they come fully undone. To prevent this, take a set of Allen keys and go over the entirety of your bike to make sure everything is tight. One that we see commonly in the shop is the top cap coming loose. To tighten this, you'll want to undo the 2 pinch bolts on the side of the stem and then tighten the top cap bolt. It doesn't need to be tightened too much, just enough that there's no play in the headset. Once you've done that, do up your pinch bolts again, making sure that the handlebars are straight with the axle at the front of the bike. An easy way to do this is making sure that the back of your handlebars line up with the front of the crown on your fork. Other than this, it's not a bad idea to also book your bike in for a full service at your local bike shop every 3 to 6 months or so. So get out there, get wrenching, and if you have any other questions about different maintenance tips that you want to see, drop them down in the comments.